Hey everyone, you're with Tom from Ludicrous Feed. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tesla and EV news from Australia to the world. I'm joined as usual by my co-host Riz from Carloop. Hey Riz, how's it going?
Yeah, going well, Tom. How you going?
Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. And I want to wish everyone who's watching today a very warm welcome. Welcome to episode 10, and thank you so much for all your comments on the previous episodes indeed. All right, let's look at the headlines for today. So, big news today, Toyota launching five new battery electric vehicles in Europe as it works towards 50% EV sales by 2030. Riz, could this be the turning point for Toyota?
Oh, it's a bit hard to tell at this stage. I mean, they've got their self-charging electric vehicles, also known as the hybrid technology, on the road at the moment, and I don't think they want to transition from that just yet. But I guess this sort of covers specifically the European market. I don't think they have much other choice if they want to stay relevant. And um, I guess we might see some of this stuff in the coming years in Australia, but at this stage it seems a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is only in Europe, and is this really from the heart, or is it just like their hands being forced because of the strict European legislations and restrictions, I guess? And like 50% EV sales by 2030, this is probably the hardest target I've seen from Toyota, yeah, ever for EVs.
Yeah, it's a bit interesting, right? I mean, it's not just the European market, but it's also world's biggest electric car or just car market, China as well. These guys have been dragging their feet for a while, but it seems that something's got to give. They're doing a lot of advertising on Australian television at the moment about how sustainable Toyota really is.
Mm.
I guess if you're a Toyota owner, you probably may believe it. But then again, if there's more compelling, affordable EVs on the way, the likes of BYD that also make a car for Toyota in China called the BZ3, which is like a Corolla sedan look-alike that's just been launched, and that's also a compliance car because they can't sell their traditional cars there because the Chinese consumers do no longer want them unless it's an EV. So similar sort of things will happen, but that car is in conjunction with BYD. It's got the BYD Blade batteries in it and the rest of it. So I guess if you can buy a BYD in Australia, they may not have the reputation yet, but they're making it today. Otherwise, with Toyota, you might be waiting 5+ years before we get, any reasonable models from them in the Australian market.
Yeah, so they've dubbed their line of battery electric vehicles the BZ or BZ, however which way you want to pronounce it. And from this Kenshiki forum in Europe, they're prospectively launching how many? Five new BZ models, including a small SUV next year. And yeah, they're wanting to go carbon neutral in Europe by 2040. I mean, that's still a long way away, really. I've always said that that name BZ is a bit cumbersome, really. Hopefully, they can sort of change it to become a more user friendly name.
But it's the philosophy behind it, which is beyond zero. I
Okay.
don't know. I thought the Mirai was going to get us there, but it hasn't yet. So, um, and the first model, BZ4X, legitimately had wheels falling off it. The nuts couldn't hold the wheels. So that was out of production for many, many months. And then it was brought back in because they'd fixed it. And now there's another scandal where I think somewhere in Europe they've tested the range and they just
Mm.
think it doesn't meet any of the WLTP stated range sort of specs that Toyota puts out there. So hopefully they can learn from that. And you know, having said all of that, they are the number one selling brand in Australia. So
Mm.
they've done something right over the years to get there. We just hope they can get the electrification flywheel spinning quicker.
Yeah, so to speak. Well, let's hope Toyota, keep going on this road. Like, I guess they've got to be congratulated to at least show some initiative in Europe. Hopefully, this journey will continue in the same vein. So, yep, watch this space. Toyota at least on the right track, if not being forced kicking and screaming into the future. All right, let's move on to the next article. Apple Car keeps popping in and out of our news feeds here. A new release date, I guess release period, 2026, under $100,000 for the Apple Car, custom chip, but no full self-driving at launch.
Hmm. I think this one's using iPhone 17X computer in it. It seems to have all the same UI UX features. I mean, having said that, looking at it for the first time, it looks awesome. Like, looks really cool. The Porsche Taycan at the moment has a screen that extends out from one driver's side to the passenger side. This seems very seamless, but we just hope you can switch some of those different screens that you don't need at night off, because there's too much distraction. But having said that, they're going in the right direction. $100,000, that's Model S money
That's
in
US
the
too.
US.
Mm.
Yeah. So, that's going to be $180,000 here if it ever happens. Um, there would be very few Apple people that may believe the hype and go with it. But what I'd like to see is this software transitioning to traditional OEMs like Volkswagen and others that are having a bit of trouble with in-car software for the EVs. That is becoming a bit of a safety concern, as we saw with the ID3 in one of our previous episodes. If this software can end up in those cars, then that would be a bit of a lifesaver. So leave the software making to the likes of Apple and Google, and the car company should focus on what they're doing at the moment, which is, transitioning to electrification.
Yeah, we touched on this last episode, like software wars. We want a stable software platform. VW is obviously having trouble trying to keep their platform stable. We'll touch on that news article a bit later on. But yeah, I think could be where Apple and Google could shine in the next 10 years, just getting a really good car platform for OEMs, as Riz said. Yeah, and that way, instead of just Apple CarPlay or Google Android Auto as an extension, they could actually take over the whole vehicle. And yeah, we'll see whether they collaborate with other OEMs moving forward. Watch this space for Apple cars. Moving back to a local news article here from The Driven, Giles Parkinson writes, key turning point, express freight giant makes biggest order for electric trucks in Australia.
Yeah, it's good to see Volvo getting involved with some of the electric stuff that they've got in Europe, bringing it into Australia, which is great to see. And with everything going on, last week with the launch of the semi deliveries to customers like PepsiCo, it seems the time is now. And for any brand, especially for our trucking nation like Australia, the quicker we can get some of these out here to customers, the better it would be, and hopefully that transition can get a bit of a kickstart.
That's right. So, yeah, Team Global Express looks like they've ordered 60 medium duty electric vehicles, electric trucks from Volvo as well as Daimler. And that's being partially funded, I think, from government money, Australian ARENA, Australian Renewable Energy Agency, to fund this purchase. And yeah, I mean, look, I guess having electric trucks on the road is going to be good for not just for the environment, obviously for our health as well, reduce noise and air pollution. So I, for one, would like to see more trucks that are electric on our roads. So good work there, Team Global Express. We shall keep an eye on your progress. Just quickly touching on Tesla inventory numbers, there seems to be some more Model 3s available in our states. There is in Victoria and Queensland.
Yeah, seems to be the case now. So, as we sort of have been saying the last couple of episodes, if you're in the market for an EV and don't want to wait months and months, keep an eye out on Tesla's inventory page. You see the standard range, long range, and even performance models now are available to purchase straight from the inventory in some states in Australia. So, I mean, if you're if you're in a state where the inventory is not there, it's not showing at the moment, worth keeping an eye out. Otherwise, doesn't hurt to pick up the phone if you're really interested in any of these cars and just speaking to Tesla and seeing what they can do. They may even, if you're happy to pay for the freight to your state, they may even put it on the back of a truck or a boat and get it out there to you. But it's just worth picking up the phone and asking the question. So anyone interested, you can get an EV now. You don't have to wait years, unlike Toyota RAV4s, which you might have to wait 2 years for, and still end up at a servo.
That's right, or a BZ where the wheels may or may not stay on. Tesla seems to be quite reliable in that department, at least. Yeah, so watch this space in your local Tesla inventory webpage. Next is the dual motor Polestar 2 gets improved performance via a $1,200 over the air update.
Hmm. On Ludicrous feed here, we love the Polestar. It is a good car. We were talking earlier about Google and Apple having software inbuilt into the cars. Polestar's got Google inbuilt. It's quite good, but charging customers for over-the-air updates,
Mm.
I mean, I guess to a certain degree, Tesla does that too for performance upgrades, like the acceleration boost that you can buy on your Model 3 long range vehicles. That's about $3,000 Australians, which, this would be around maybe $1,800, $1,900 in Australia if it does come here. But yeah, a little bit on the expensive side for an over the air update as such, unless it gives you, 100 extra horsepower, which I'm not sure if it does.
Yeah, I think Polestar's not the only company doing that. I think Mercedes gives you a acceleration subscription as well. So looks like the whole world is going to a subscription based or sort of a one-off fee. In this case for Polestar, I do like this G meter. Did I say that right? G meter. I think I've tested the
Yeah,
performance version. You can sort of round corners quickly and accelerate. You can see how much force or how much G force the car is experiencing.
yeah, it's traditionally used in obviously sports cars and stuff. I'm not sure if the Model 3 Performance in track mode has a G sensor like that, or a sort of a schematic of one.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, cool to see. I guess they're trying to engage with some of their customers that have purchased the more higher performance vehicles from them. So it's orientated towards them. So yeah, hopefully Polestar can bring some of these updates to cars in Australia as well.
Yeah, so just confirming, this doesn't actually increase your acceleration time 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. It does increase the torque in mid acceleration range. So if you want that,
Hmm.
there it is, $1,200 over the air update for Polestar 2. Next is Rivian using wind energy to power up to 75% of its Illinois factory. Good to see Rivian taking things seriously with renewable energy.
Yeah, it's a good commitment from them. I believe this wind farm is still to be built, but when it's ready, then the factory will be using quite a substantial amount. So they're basically pre-purchasing the energy from that wind farm. So it's good to see, and hopefully more sustainable initiatives can be taken up by other more traditional manufacturers as well.
Yeah, I like to see this. I mean, it'd be great if these companies and battery plants actually show you in real time how much of its power is from renewable energy, like wind or solar. The same way, if you've got a Powerwall 2, like I do, you can actually see how green you are for the day or for the month or for the year in terms of percentage. And it's quite a nice feeling, knowing that you are powering your house or your factory or whatever with green power. So yeah, I implore these companies to do that and show us in real time what's going on. Keep you all accountable. I think that'd be nice. Next is Ford is yeah, this is quite interesting article. Ford is actually not doing the direct to consumer model for their EVs. They're actually going to go the dealership model instead. Riz, what are your thoughts on this?
Dealerships traditionally, have had a place with this electrification with some brands like Tesla, Polestar, even BYD to a certain degree. They've sort of shown people that you no longer need a dealership space as such. You can have experience centers. Ford's sort of a little bit tired because they have to work with the dealers to continue to sell ICE cars. Um, so, in some ways, it's good to see that two-thirds of the dealers in the US are serious about this electrification change. I think some of them, it might be short-sighted because they may just be looking at the markups that come as the demand's relatively high for EVs. Some of them sell something like a F-150 Lightning at twice the price, twice the recommended retail price, and the rest of the markup is sort of a dealer markup. In Australia, it's not as bad, but I guess Ford will need to ensure that their dealer network understands that customers will have an expectation, and if they have these huge markups, they'll just go in 2 years' time. The Rivians, there'll be plenty of them. Cybertruck would have launched whole lot of other options for customers. So if dealers don't play nice, then people may be walking away from the brand, and Ford will suffer.
Yeah, it's a really interesting decade coming up, as you said, Riz. Lots of direct-to-consumer type EVs as alternatives to traditional dealerships offering both types, EVs and ICE. If the EV version is more expensive than the ICE sitting in a showroom, and if the markup or the profit margin is high for the ICE vehicle, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for the dealers to push customers to ICE. Riz, am I being skeptical there, or is that a problem for them?
Well, it could possibly be, because the other element where dealers make money is servicing. And with EVs, there's very little servicing there. And they may be pushing consumers to, you know, go for an ICE vehicle instead, because they'll be getting the servicing revenue in the near to medium term. But I guess time will tell. They would have to have, I guess, terms in their contracts to ensure that, an EV customer and an ICE customer is sort of treated equally, and not, one preferred over the other. But I guess time will tell. It's only for the likes of Ford and GM to lose, because there's other brands that are raring to get into this market, and they'll have a direct to consumer model.
Yep, absolutely. It's makes for fascinating viewing anyway from our point of view. So yeah, we'll keep watching forward. Just a few other quick stories from North America. So this is a cute little light delivery van thing in Canada. Bright Drop it kicks off this Zevo 600 production as it reveals first customer.
This has got to be the coolest GM electric car that there is. It's not the Hummer, and it's not the Silverado. It's this thing, because there's a huge need for these delivery vans at the moment. We've seen Ford struggle a little bit with some of the numbers we covered 2 episodes ago. They're not producing nearly as much as the demand sort of, that's out there for these delivery vehicles. So good to see if GM can win in this space. Then we'll forgive them for all the other things they don't win in. But in this case, this is a very important vehicle for transitioning towards electrification.
Yeah, for sure. We'll keep harping on the point that yes, light commercial vehicles makes a lot of sense to use EVs for the fact that they can keep charging at the depot as they make their rounds. So hopefully we'll see them in Australia as well. But I do like the look of this aerodynamic looking delivery van slash light truck. Looks really good. Well done, GM. And just quickly, Ford breaking ground at the Blue Oval SK Battery Park, trying to achieve its 2 million run rate goal.
We've spoken about this a couple of times in the last week or so. They've got a pretty big target to get there, and so far, it's early days, but by 2026 they want to make 2 million EVs. It's taken Tesla over how many years to make that happen, and they're still at about, just 1.5 million. I think they'll hit this year. So yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to see how that sort of pans out. But at least they're investing in factories, investing in American jobs, and hopefully these factories will have specialized people that can make EVs and make them efficiently, which would mean that they'd be able to pump more of them out, and consumers can start to transition from their ICE vehicles to EVs. I doubt we'll see any vehicles from Ford for the Australian market coming out of the US anytime soon.
Yeah, and of course we know that the Ford has been in partnership with Korean battery maker SK On, I believe. Let me just check.
Hmm.
Yes, On. SK On. And look, hopefully if anybody can make cars, it's Ford. They are the ones to do it, but hopefully they can get those cars to those dealers that we talked about earlier and sell them to EV customers as well. Well, let's move over to China now, and cars from China. And BYD is going to sell the Atto 3 in Japan from January next year with a $32,000 US dollar price tag.
Very fair pricing. It's pretty much on par with what we're getting in here in Australia, which is good to see. The Japanese market is obviously, very focused on supporting their own manufacturers, but with, Nissan sort of not really progressing with the Leaf and other vehicles as such, the BYD Atto 3 is just such an efficient car compared to some of the traditional older Leafs and the rest in terms of the range it offers and what the families expect. So this would do relatively well there. The challenge BYD will have is, you know, uh, sort of building that brand in a market which, like the US that love their own cars, the Japanese love their own brands. So it'd be very interesting to see how this goes, and even more important, how Dolphin, the smaller city car, which was spotted in the streets of Sydney not too long ago, being tested, how that car, when it lands, how that will do in Japan, because there's a much bigger market for more densely populated cities for smaller hatchbacks like the Dolphin.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the Dolphin in 1 second, but you're right, Riz. It's a really tight, locally produced market in Japan. Obviously, with Honda, Toyota, uh, you know, Nissan. There's lots to choose from for the local market, and obviously we've spoken about Toyota's. I guess lagging behind in EV, so maybe the BYD Atto 3 will present a nice alternative for local buyers. So, a very interesting market indeed. So speaking of BYD, once again, the Atto 3 is now the best-selling model in Israel in November, selling 2,000 over units in November.
Yeah, it's new market for them, and Israelis seem to really like EVs in general. So good to see them get into a market and sort of win it pretty quickly. I wonder if we'll see similar things in the likes of Australia and some of the other markets that they're launching in.
Yeah, that's right. Once we see all the data from next year, once the cars start to enter the country, I mean the BYD Atto 3, we all know it's a very good value vehicle. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the data from Riz, of course, from Carloop from next year
Make it
in
happen.
Australia. Yeah. And look, India is expected to receive more BYDs as well. The first 500 will be delivered starting next year, but they want to sell 15,000 of the units locally by 2023.
I mean, 2023 is next year. Toyota 2026, and they may have something here. They're talking about producing and rolling them off and sending them to customers by next year. So very good to see. I wonder if it's a bit unclear in this article whether the first ones actually, when it says roll out, does that mean it's rolled out of a plant in India?
Mm.
Um, well, I guess it does. The title does say that. So they're already making them there. So which is interesting to see. And um, I guess there were a huge market there, which Tesla struggled quite a bit with due to different challenges. The Indian government wanting them to produce the cars there. Tesla sort of saying, well, we haven't even ramped up our Shanghai factory yet. And so all of those challenges. But yeah, if in a more affordable sort of market like India, where the market's huge for good electric vehicles, I think the Atto 3 will do well, especially if it's made locally in India for Indian customers.
Yeah, I mean, Atto 3 has done so well worldwide since its launch early this year. So again, India is a huge market for them. So I think 15,000 is only the tip of the iceberg. I think there'll be more to come moving forward.
Hmm.
So yeah, well done BYD, doing things quietly and getting it done. It's good. And speaking of the Dolphin earlier, the BYD Dolphin, which is the smaller hatchback from BYD, debuts in Colombia.
Yeah, it's I guess they're launching in markets which currently don't have a lot of EVs. Australia was a good example of that in the Western world when they launched here. Australia and New Zealand is sort of, there wasn't much else available under 50,000, and they've launched and they've done really, really well. So now they're sort of introducing some of their more city-like models in other markets, Colombia obviously being one of them, and just seeing how that would do when there's not much else. We recently also touched on the fact that they launched in Mexico as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, their expansion plan sort of covers many continents all at the same time. Very cool to see.
Yeah, this car is going to do so well in urban centers. It's just a great compact urban vehicle for densely populated areas like our capital cities. So I think this is very close in Australia. We're probably going to see this very soon. I think launched in our market. So watch this space for the BYD Dolphin. All right, back to Europe. Well, kind of Europe and Asia. VW to export Chinese-made EVs, which is the Cupra, back to Europe. So, bit of back and forth there.
It's interesting. Recently, even BMW that owns Mini did the same thing. They're going to close a Mini plant in the UK and make the Minis in China to send it back to the UK or Europe. So it's the UK car market's not doing too well. The European car manufacturers are struggling in their own market to produce vehicles. So I guess if they're going to produce compelling EVs, they've got to go where all the materials and everything needed to build these cars is already there,
Mm.
which is China from the looks of things, and US is catching up too. But at the moment, for European market, China seems a more reasonable choice for many of these manufacturers, including VW's owned Cupra brand, which will be launching a car in Australia shortly as well.
I mean, so many industries over the last 10, 20 years have done that, right? Textiles, send to China, send it back locally to sell. And I guess the car industry was one of the last, strongholds not to do that. But you've seen Geely do that now. You've seen MG do that. And it looks like VW is going to be heading that way. Tesla's doing that too. So, yeah, interesting times ahead.
Volvo, Lotus, one
Mm.
of the most iconic British brands, will be built in China and sent back to the Great Britain. So, yeah, interesting times in the electrification and automotive
Mm.
transition that we're seeing now.
Yeah, fascinating times. Yep. I never thought I'd see the day, but here we are. All right, and Volkswagen, once again, we talked about Volkswagen having software issues, but now they reportedly are looking for software supremacy. That's a strong word, Riz, supremacy.
Um, yeah, I guess it somewhat reminds me of BYD just quietly doing stuff. Volkswagen, GM, and some of the other brands have said a lot of things. In Australia, we're yet to see any Volkswagen electric products. The ID4, supposedly they brought a couple in, but who knows when it's officially going to launch, how many they'll bring. But it just seems that everything's under the new leadership seems to be back to big headlines, um, forgetting about what the most important thing is, which is customers and listening to them. We
Mm.
covered in our recent episode in customers in China, writing an open letter, so frustrated, basic features don't work. And, I think it's better to take steps to get somewhere, but claiming yourself as the leaders in software, which we've said Apple and Google and Tesla are,
Hmm.
it's a very different thing. So we just wish them the very best, and hopefully they can deliver the supremacy that comes with their good software.
That's right. So we did touch on the Apple story earlier. So maybe this is where the world is heading, where Apple is supplying OEMs like Volkswagen. Just if they do it well, just why not just what's the word, super specialize and just get together and yeah, I think that's the way forward personally.
Mhm.
And as the old Elvis song goes, a little less conversation, a little more action, please, Volkswagen. Let's get your cars and get them sorted, get them to Australia. Back in Europe now. Deutsche Post DHL orders 2,000 Ford electric vans, and again, we love our light commercial electric vehicles. So hopefully, we'll see more of these in Australia as well.
Yeah, I guess Ford, in this case, has done a sort of global MOU, signed it with DHL. Um, and DHL seems pretty serious. In this article, they cover sort of DHL's ambition to have majority of their fleet electrified by 2030, and it's roughly 80,000 vehicles. That's a lot of vehicles.
Mm.
It's good to see that there is some ambition, if nothing more, from some of these European logistic companies and large European corporates. They know electrification is serious and they have to get started today. So they're making commitments. Amazon in Europe is doing the same thing. They recently announced 1.5 billion Australian dollars worth of investment in getting electric vans and delivery sort of vehicles. So more of it that we can see, the better it would be.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday's episode. The little micro mobility vans for Amazon, they look pretty cool, as well as the light vans as well. I quite like them. And I think we touched on think Domino's are also, electric vehicle delivery kind of little trucks as well. Yeah,
Very cool.
very cool indeed. And finally, back to Tesla. A first shipment of Tesla Model S and Model X Plaids finally arrive in Europe.
Oh, it's been a while. I mean, we haven't seen any yet, but so Tesla, if you're watching, we need them out here. There's customers waiting for years now, but at least, um, good to see that they're getting them out there, particularly for left-hand drive markets, which is same sort of car that they're already building in the US, and there seems to be quite a few in the US inventory. So if they can't sell them there, some of the newer ones they'll make, if the demand isn't there just yet, they've got to fulfill the rest of the world. And there's a lot there before they even think about moving to a right-hand drive, S or X standard or plaid models.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much longer it is before a right-hand drive model and market opens up like us. So, yeah, hopefully 6 to 12 months, somewhere around there. Late 2023
Yes,
risk.
seems pretty reasonable. I think by the closer to the end, probably quarter 4 of 2023, we might start to see some initial customer orders being shipped towards us. So yeah, still good to see good progress. Obviously, this photo comes from your guide, Tom. So it's good to see you're contributing at a global level now.
Yes, obviously that's not mine. No, but Tom's guide, yes, good to see. Good name there, Tom. I like that. All right, well, when they do come to Australia, we might have to book a day on the track, get a hot lap one of those plaids.
Oh, definitely. There'll be the quickest car that you can sort of, production car that you can buy in Australia.
Yep. Strap yourself in, sub 2 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, no problem. Just don't have lunch beforehand. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. A long episode today, but I think it was worth it. Lots of news, obviously, on the horizon there. Lots of things to catch up on. And as always, Riz, thank you so much for your time and for your articles that you supply to us.
Thanks for having me, Tom. Good to see lots happening in this space, and hopefully 2023 will turn into a really, really good year for more electric vehicles in Australia. We desperately need them, and people want them.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's very exciting for the year coming up ahead. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments as well. And we look forward to bringing you episode 11 next time. Otherwise, stay safe, take care, and as always, happy charging.